Before judging a silent woman, you should first ask what she has survived. This story begins in a modern African city, inside a large house that looked peaceful from the outside. People admired this family. They were respected, wealthy, and well known in their community. And this girl, she entered that house as a new bride. She was gentle by nature, not weak, just calm. She believed respect could solve everything. Her husband loved her. He worked long hours, leaving early every morning with dreams of building a better future. But when the gate closed behind him, the house changed. If you believe silence has power, take a moment to subscribe and share this story, because some truths are only heard when we listen carefully. At first, everything felt normal. The mother-in-law spoke politely in front of her son. The sister-in-law smiled when guests were around. But there was something in their eyes, something cold. The girl felt it on her first morning alone in that house, and that was just the beginning. Every morning followed the same routine. Her husband would leave for work. He would smile, remind her to rest, and promise to come home early. The moment the door shut, the silence turned heavy. The mother-in-law's voice changed first. "Why are you standing there? Start cleaning." The smile disappeared. The respect vanished. She was ordered to clean rooms she didn't even sleep in, floors she didn't walk on, dishes she never used. The sister-in-law watched, sometimes laughing, sometimes adding more work. By evening, her hands would shake from exhaustion, and when her husband returned, the house magically transformed again. Tea was served, smiles returned, compliments filled the room. She stood quietly in the corner, her pain carefully hidden. That night, she realized something painful. This house had two faces, and she only saw the real one. Days passed, and the cruelty grew bolder. She was no longer treated like a family member. She was treated like labor. Bathrooms scrubbed on her knees, laundry washed by hand until her fingers burned, kitchen cleaned long after midnight. If she slowed down even for a moment, a sharp voice would cut through the air. "You are here to serve. Don't forget your place." One afternoon, the mother-in-law stepped closer and lowered her voice. "If my son hears even one word about what happens in this house," her eyes hardened, "you will not leave this place alive." The sister-in-law smiled while saying it. Fear wrapped around her heart. That night, she cried silently into her pillow, praying her tears would not be heard. She chose silence, not because she was weak, but because she was afraid. The sister-in-law grew crueler. She mocked her accent, her background, her kindness. "Do you think you belong here?" she would say. "You should be grateful we even let you stay." Food became another punishment. Leftovers, cold meals, sometimes nothing at all. Yet, in front of her brother, she acted like a caring sister. The girl learned how to hide bruises under long sleeves, how to smile with swollen eyes, how to swallow pain without making a sound. At night, she stared at the ceiling, wondering how love had led her into a place where she felt invisible. Still, she told herself one thing: "I will not break this home." And that promise cost her more than she imagined. It happened on an ordinary afternoon. The house was quiet. No guests, no witnesses. She was cleaning the living room when the mother-in-law accused her of being lazy. Before she could speak, the slap landed across her face. Time froze. Her ears rang. Her heart pounded. The sister-in-law watched without stopping it. "Remember my warning," the mother-in-law said coldly. "Speak, and you die." She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She bent down and continued cleaning, tears falling onto the floor she was forced to scrub. That evening, her husband returned home early. She greeted him with a smile, and for the first time, she hid a bruise not just on her face, but in her soul. Days passed, and the girl learned to live in two worlds. By day, she moved through the house silently, completing endless chores. She cleaned floors, scrubbed bathrooms, cooked meals no one appreciated. Her back ached, her hands cracked. Every word she spoke could become a weapon in the wrong hands. By night, her husband returned. The house transformed. The mother-in-law smiled. The sister-in-law laughed as if nothing had happened, and he looked at her with love, not knowing the battles she fought while he was gone. The girl learned to smile while bleeding inside. She learned to answer questions lightly, hiding exhaustion behind laughter. She learned that silence was her shield and obedience her only weapon. Every day she hoped someone would see the truth. Every day she realized she was alone. Fear became routine. The mother-in-law would appear suddenly, her voice cold, slicing through the quiet house. "Move faster, do not waste time." The sister-in-law followed, adding her own cruel laughter, mocking every misstep. Even when no one was around, she flinched at shadows. Every glance, every word felt like a warning. She stopped reacting to insults, stopped asking for mercy, stopped hoping anyone would notice. But the fear stayed, constant, like a shadow she could never escape. One afternoon, the girl almost spoke. She almost told her husband everything, but the mother-in-law's eyes burned into her soul. The sister-in-law's smile froze her words. "You dare open your mouth?" the mother-in-law whispered. "Remember what I said. One word to him, and you will regret it." Her hands trembled, her knees shook. She swallowed her fear, swallowed the truth, swallowed her own voice, and she smiled when her husband returned home, hiding the storm inside her chest. She dreamed of a day when her husband might come home early, when he could see, understand, protect. One day, that hope seemed possible. A sudden message said he would return earlier than usual. Her heart raced. She imagined relief, a soft smile, a gentle word. But fate had another plan. He was called back to work at the last moment. The girl's chest ached. Hope slipped through her fingers again. The walls around her seemed higher, the house colder, her fear deeper. It happened during a small family gathering. A few close relatives were visiting, unaware of the hidden tension. The mother-in-law chose the moment perfectly. "Move faster. Are you too weak to handle even a simple task?" she shouted. The sister-in-law added mockery, laughing loudly, making every word a dagger. She was humiliated, not by a slap, not by force, but by the world watching. All eyes on her, yet no one knowing the truth. The girl bowed her head, smiling politely at her husband when he glanced in her direction. No explanation, no tears visible. Her dignity remained, even in public shame. Her silence became louder than any scream. And that evening, her husband came home late. He saw her tired eyes, the quiet tension in her posture. For the first time, he wondered if something had been hidden from him. The house had grown quiet, but not peaceful. Her husband had begun noticing small details, a flinch at the slightest touch, a hurried glance whenever the mother-in-law entered a room, the trembling hands when she carried dishes. He watched her quietly, unsure what to say, afraid to break the fragile mask she wore. She smiled at him when he spoke, her eyes hiding the storm inside. Every word he asked, every question, she answered with lightness, masking exhaustion with politeness. Yet behind that smile, the fear never left. The bruises were invisible. The words she swallowed hung heavy in the air between them. At night, she prayed again, hoping he would understand, hoping he would come home earlier, hoping he would finally see the truth. But she also feared that if she spoke, the threat would become real, and the house she struggled to survive in would become a trap she could not escape. Fate had its own timing. A sudden change in his work schedule meant he would arrive home earlier than usual. Her heart skipped a beat at the thought. She cleaned the floors more quickly, straightened cushions, made sure everything looked perfect. The house seemed quieter than usual, but she knew it was a deceptive calm. The mother-in-law moved around, pretending business as usual, but her eyes scanned the girl's movements like a hawk. The sister-in-law followed, whispering sharp remarks that the girl barely heard, her ears tuned only to the distant sound of the gate, praying it would open. Every second stretched endlessly. The anticipation made her chest ache. She wondered, would he notice? Would he see the bruises? Would he finally confront the truth that had been hidden for months? The gate opened. The footsteps echoed. Her heart raced. Destiny was moving, and the long wait for justice was about to begin. It happened faster than she could prepare for. The mother-in-law accused her of being careless with the silverware. Words flew, insults sharpened like knives. The sister-in-law laughed loudly, adding her own cruelty. The girl remained silent. Hands trembling, she bent down to collect the fallen utensils. And then, the slap. It landed across her face. Time froze. Pain flared. Her heart pounded. She kept her head down, breathing shallow. She did not cry. She did not shout. But behind her, something had changed. The gate had opened unexpectedly. Her husband, walking quietly, had arrived early. He stopped in the doorway, frozen, watching. The mother-in-law's eyes widened. She did not notice him at first. She raised her hand again, ready to strike. But the world had shifted. The man she had thought blind to her cruelty was standing right there. The room seemed to stop moving. Her mother-in-law turned. Her eyes met his. Shock replaced anger. The words she had practiced so many times failed her. The sister-in-law froze, realizing her brother had returned early. The laughter died in her throat. The girl stayed still, head bowed, her eyes closed for a brief second, gathering the courage she had stored for months. He stepped forward slowly, voice calm but firm. Enough. The house went silent. No one dared move. For the first time, her strength was witnessed, not by words, not by cries, but by her endurance. The silence spoke louder than any scream ever could. He looked at her, seeing the faint bruises, the tired eyes, the trembling hands. "Why didn't you tell me?" he asked softly. She lowered her eyes, bowing her head slightly, her voice barely audible, yet steady. "I thought I could protect this home. I could survive it. I didn't want anyone to be hurt." He breathed deeply, anger and sorrow mixing in his gaze. Not a word against his mother, not a shout, just understanding and a decision that would change everything. He took her hand gently. "I will take care of this," he said. "No one will hurt you again." The mother-in-law's eyes darted away. Her mouth opened, but no words came. The sister-in-law stepped back, realizing the shift. The girl's silence had finally become her power. Months of endurance had led to this moment. Her dignity remained intact, and the house that once trembled under her fear now began to tremble under the truth she had carried quietly all along. The house had grown quiet, almost as if it was holding its breath. He looked at his mother. No shouting, no accusations, only calm, only authority. "You will no longer lay a hand on her," he said, his voice steady, unwavering. The mother-in-law froze. The sister-in-law stepped back, realizing for the first time that her brother would no longer allow cruelty. He took his wife's hand gently, leading her to sit. Every step he took shifted the balance in the house. The girl kept her head down, letting him handle the storm. No need for revenge, no need for confrontation. Her months of suffering had only strengthened her patience and her dignity. The air in the room changed. Respect, once demanded by fear, now shifted quietly to him and to her. The sister-in-law tried to speak. "Brother," she began, but he cut her off with a single look. His mother looked down, trying to hide shame, but the weight of truth was visible in her eyes. He made it clear, no lies, no excuses. The girl's suffering would not continue. From that moment, the house's energy changed. Every whispered insult, every mocking laugh now seemed hollow. The girl remained quiet, but every glance she gave carried a new strength. She did not need to shout. Her silence was louder than words. Punishment did not come with shouting. It did not come with public humiliation. It came quietly. The mother-in-law's words lost power. The sister-in-law's laughter faded. The respect they once commanded through fear was gone. Every small act of cruelty was now seen clearly. The household that had thrived on domination and mockery now experienced the natural consequence: invisibility. No one laughed, no one cheered, only the quiet understanding of the wrong they had done. And the girl? She continued her chores, but now with a sense of peace. Her dignity, finally restored, shone without the need for confrontation. The husband spent the next days quietly supporting her. He would arrive home on time, sometimes early, sometimes without announcement, simply to show he noticed her presence. Meals were shared with warmth. Words of kindness filled spaces that had been cold. He apologized quietly for the months she had endured alone. The girl smiled, not out of relief, but because finally the storm had passed. Her body still ached, but her spirit began to heal. The house that had been a prison slowly turned into a home, and the people who had thrived on fear had to face themselves. The mother-in-law sat alone in her room, looking around the now calm house. For the first time, she felt the weight of her actions. She had demanded respect through cruelty. She had assumed silence meant weakness. She had forgotten that patience could hold power stronger than force. Her daughter, who had once mocked quietly, now avoided her gaze. The once dominant family presence had shifted. Regret did not come with apologies. It came with silence, and the knowledge that the truth had been hiding in plain sight all along. Months later, the girl walked through the house with a quiet confidence. No one dared mock her. No one dared challenge her presence. The husband always stood by her side, not to overshadow her, but to remind the household that patience, respect, and silence could be stronger than anger. She did not need revenge. She did not raise her voice. Her calm presence, her strength in suffering, her ability to endure, that had rewritten the rules of the house. Every glance, every action spoke louder than words. Dignity had won. Quietly, power shifted into the hands of the one who had survived it all. Years later, the story of this house was remembered differently. Not for wealth, not for luxury, not for fear, but for a lesson. that patience is not weakness, that silence is not submission, that dignity cannot be bought, it is earned. She entered that house as someone underestimated. She remained as someone undeniable. And the mother-in-law? She understood finally that cruelty leaves no legacy. And in a voice that could never be shouted, the girl's truth remained clear. Some women do not need to raise their voices to change the world. They do it quietly, with courage and patience. If this story moved you, share it, subscribe, and let the world hear that silence can sometimes be louder than any shout.